I have a problem. As you can see, this moon is orbiting some random planet. The motion of these two objects is honestly kind of simple. It's predictable. But unfortunately, this is not a two-body problem. It's actually a 27-body problem. But oh wait, this is actually just one of the planets orbiting around this star. And this star is one of the many orbiting around this black hole. This is the roguelike I've been working on, a game where every single object is attracted to one another. And now I have a name for it, Orbitus. In the last video, I compared this game to Kerbal Space Program, but I must say, the gameplay is nothing like it. In Kerbal Space Program, you slowly plot your journey to a distant planet, one orbital burn at a time, predicting exactly when and how you'll land, or crash if you're like me. In this game, the planet you were hoping to land on might not be a planet by the time you get to it. Every star, planet, and moon is given the exact velocity it needs to orbit around its host, but with so many variables, there's no guaranteeing that it won't collapse, burn, or be flung out of the system to disrupt another. Wow, a shooting star! Make a wish! There's a lot of destruction in this game, and it creates a problem. More objects, which means there's way more gravity calculations for the CPU. Back then, I was calculating the gravity between every single pair of objects, which scaled at a rate of n squared. But luckily, the comments section gave me a ton of good ideas on how to fix this, and no idea was brought up more than the Barnes-Hut algorithm. Take a look at all the forces that this rock receives. It makes sense to calculate each force individually, because each force differs a lot from the rest. But if I took the rock all the way out here, they almost seem to blend together. So what Barnes-Hut does is it treats this entire cluster as one object, and just does one force calculation with its center of mass. But how do we know what a cluster is? Pretend each object is actually a grape. Barnes-Hut turns the universe into a grape cluster. But have you ever noticed that a grape cluster sort of just looks like a cluster of smaller grape clusters, and then those smaller clusters are actually clusters of grapes? Recursion. All the objects are put into a giant region, and then that region is divided into 4 subregions. These will get divided too, until every single object has its own box around it. When doing gravity calculations for an object, we can do one calculation for an entire region, or for each subregion, depending on the distance from that region. By doing this, the n squared of the brute force approach is brought down to n log n, which is much better. Another system I tried making was an n squared algorithm that changed the frequency of calculations depending on how strong a force is between two objects. So most objects would update every frame, while forces that are practically zero would be updated every couple of frames. This helped the performance a ton, but it also took away a lot of the physical accuracy, so I ended up sticking with Barnes-Hut. There were only a few minor bugs along the way, but I ended up finishing it. I also decided to try out multi-threading for the first time. I had to rewrite all my Barnes-Hut code to fit in Unity's jobs and burst system, but it was worth it. Now the game runs much better. I also implemented a chunk loading system, which is exactly like Minecraft, if its chunks were swirling around and orbiting a giant black hole. Because everything is moving in this game, the chunks couldn't be stationary, so I used stars as chunks. Unloaded objects store their position and velocity relative to the nearest star, and then basically vanish until the player approaches that star again. This means that the CPU doesn't have to calculate gravity for faraway objects. There's room for more optimization, but now that the performance is better, I can add more stuff. Take a look at this star. I made it so each star spawns with a random amount of nuclear fuel and slowly expands into a red giant. And then... yeah, the average lifetime of a star in this game is about an hour long, so you're going to be seeing this a lot. But don't worry, I'll give you like a 5-second head start whenever it happens. I also added a new upgrade to the shop that allows you to shoot satellite projectiles. Turns out you can make an orbit out of anything, as long as there's mass. This applies to enemies too. Although sometimes the orbits decay for some reason, so I'm still tweaking it. Anyway, that's it for this devlog. Still working on some features like bosses and the story, but yeah, I should be finishing it in August. I also think I'm going to try publishing it to Steam. And thank you all for helping me reach 1,800 subscribers, by the way. All your feedback and stuff has been really helpful. And thank you for watching.